over here we have the answer distribution. So this very simply is looking at how people answered the questions, the diagnostic questions, whether they scored never, very infrequently, occasionally, sometimes, usually, most of the time, or always. And there's a gap here between sometimes and usually because we want everybody scoring usually, most of the time, and always. If they're scoring over here, sometimes, occasionally, very infrequently, and never, that means the needs largely are unmet. So over here for motivation, how many people ticked never? One person. Very infrequently, one person. Occasionally, 6 people, which equates to 3%. For sometimes 11 people, which equates to 5%. So very simply, it just works out the distribution. If you click the chevron here to the left of motivation, it brings up the 4 motivation questions. And you can do the same for feeling valued and feedback. If you scroll down, you'll see a table, needs unmet. And over here on the left-hand side, you have the pie chart. So if we click always, see what happens to the pie chart. Most of the time, usually, sometimes, occasionally, very frequently, and never. If we click needs unmet, 11%, see what happens to the polar chart. So those 4 areas jump out, which equates to 11%. Now we suggest teams get this down to 10% and less, because that usually means the needs will be largely met. If the needs are not being met, and we will sometimes get a score here of 50% of unmet needs. So obviously, there's a lot of work to be done by such a team. So if we close that down and go back to our dashboard, over here, historical data, completions. So here we have this particular organization has completed the diagnostic 4 times, and you have the rates there. And in the 3rd position at 85, that was the very, very first time that the organization took the diagnostic. So in that 3rd place with the darker, richer blue, that's always the first time, because we can forget how much progress we have made. And we have some organizations been using this program for 13 years. So if you can imagine, in that 3rd place was the very, very first time they've taken the diagnostic. Scroll down and we have average scores. Again, something similar. And again, in that 3rd place, that richer blue, which was the first time they actually scored it. Team analysis, highest scoring teams. And again, a great discussion can grow here with the senior team. How do you want to reward them? Do we want to reward them? What does reward look like? How do we maintain the behaviors? Because the behaviors from highest scoring teams are likely to be most beneficial to the business. So again, really interesting conversations. We'll start with the senior team. Low scoring teams, again, what do you want to do with these? Do they need specific help? Can we get the team leaders of the high scoring teams working with the team leaders of the low scoring teams? And on will go the conversation. Next is the satisfaction of goal achieved, which is 100% completion and 5+. Again, recognizing these people in some way. Most improved teams, if you're going to do an internal award scheme, this can be part of it. Most improved teams, least improved teams, again, do they need particular support? Teams with no average scores, less than 3 completions. So the system will not show an average score for the team until at least 3 people in the team have completed the diagnostic. We do that for security, for confidentiality reasons. Also, it might reflect a disengaged team. And that's an interesting conversation now with the senior team. Are you prepared to tolerate leaders who are not particularly interested in the needs of their people? Do we accept that the secret of good leadership, leading people, getting the best out of people, is about connecting with their needs? And if we do, then are you prepared to tolerate people who are not interested in their colleagues' needs? Again, some very interesting conversations will take place and very relevant to the senior team. Question analysis, high scoring questions, low scoring questions. And this is what happens with most organizations. They take their lowest scoring questions and pass that back to the management team for them to find the solution, which of course is impossible or extremely difficult. How can you, from that corporate perspective, find solutions that's going to work in teams? Really, really difficult. Down at the bottom, progress charts, a nice simple chart, which just compares the progress between the different retakings of the diagnostic. So in red is the current, the previous diagnostic is in blue, green the previous one, so click green, and another blue. And if you want to click the minimum box, and all the minimum scores come up. So again, useful, nice to have. Now, these particular buttons at the bottom of the dashboard, we access by clicking on the dashboard, scrolling all the way down, progress summary. If I was the MD of an organization, this is the one report which would have most meaning. Why? Because this lets me know the difference between how the diagnostic was completed this time to last time, and whether the scores get better or worse. If it gets worse, it goes red. If it gets better, it goes green. So you can see immediately with this heat map, lots of reds and a little bit of green. So what the reds tells us is that is smoke. There could be a fire there. We don't know, but somebody needs to have a conversation. And if you have the senior team at this meeting, right, whose department, whose directorate is that particular individual or team suffering? So that a conversation starts, what's going on, how can we help, etc., etc. So we don't get a crisis, we don't get a fire. So this flags up the issues early so they don't develop into a crisis. Over here to the left of the new world, you see the chevron, click that, and it brings up the differences between the two scores, the current diagnostic and the previous one. So if we go back to our dashboard, scroll all the way down to the end, comparison charts. So if we click the chevron here, this opens up the organizational structure. So if I click at Great Britain, America, and France, show charts. Now notice how quickly those charts were created. Masses of information or data being processed here. So have a look here, and this will show us if there are patterns. In real life, most organizations will show a pattern around feedback. In other words, it's a dip. It's scoring lower. So this allows you to do this. And if you scroll down here, you could take Great Britain and open that up into all the different teams, the sub-teams, if you like, within a Great Britain, and show those. And again, you're going to get patterns and useful information. The last report I want to show you is on the 7 steps for needs-driven leadership. If you click the BP2W logo, it always brings you back to the welcome back page. Now, when you first log in, you get a welcome page. Thereafter, you get a welcome back page. And here, this tells us what are the actions for this particular team. So within here is this team World Leaders, who is an activity scheduled for the 19th of the 3rd, facilitated by Pete. And also here, you've got the 7 steps for needs-driven leadership for this particular team leader. So what are these 7 steps? Number 1, and by the way, this is systemized leadership. What we really are saying is do these 7 things, you are likely to be an outstanding leader. And all of these things are doable. Number 1, diagnostic completions. Assure everybody in your team completes the diagnostic. Yeah, we can do that. Facilitate the personal / team satisfaction and work review activity. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, we can do that. Set or record any goals that have been set at those meetings. Yeah. Have a one-to-one with each of your team members about their chart. Yeah, we can do that one. get team members to run an activity once a month and ensure the facilitator writes a little review comment, and then meet with your line manager. So those are the 7 steps, which if followed is likely to result in outstanding leadership. Also, by achieving that, you are entitled to an ILM certificate, leading and managing employee engagement and staff well-being. If I now go back to the dashboard, scroll down to the very end, and click that last button, you now have those 7 steps for needs-driven leadership for every single team and division and director across the whole of the organization. So that's it. That's the demonstration. It really is about changing the culture, having a needs-focused culture supported by needs-driven leadership. It's about improving the quality of work life for people, ensuring that they find fulfillment in work, improving the quality of their work experience, and never forgetting that the business need has priority over any individual's needs. So the mantra is meet the business needs without neglecting the needs of people. And if you neglect the needs of people, now you disengage your staff. Now you create your people problems. Good luck in your journeys, and feel free to come back and ask any questions. We will be delighted to answer them.